Hi Year 7 and welcome to Music Term 2. This term we will be starting a new topic called duration and pitch. And we're going to be learning about how musicians use pictures and symbols to represent the lengths of sound and the heights of sound. Before we get stuck into the new content, I just want to give a quick explanation of how we will be doing our learning while we are still online. Every Monday, one of the music teachers is going to post a video lecture like this. That video lecture will be a little bit lengthy and it will have an explanation of all the work that that you need to learn in music this week. That video will be in a Google form, and at the end of that Google form will be what we call an exit slip. And that is a place for you to post any questions that you have about the information discussed. For example, here is one, and you can type in what is a semibreve. That is due by Tuesday at 12 p.m. Then your teacher will collect all the questions received by all the students and make a video that explains all those, that answers all those questions. Then Thursday and Friday, you have a chance to complete another Google form, which will be a quiz based on all the information we learn about in this lecture. Here's an example of one of these quizzes. There will be information to help you answer the questions. There will be some videos for you to watch to help you memorize some of the new content. And then there will also be a series of questions for the teacher to see how are you going with learning this new information. You can answer all these questions and then continue on, watch the next few videos, etc. And then your teacher will mark your work. Sometimes in these lectures, you're going to be asked to copy information into your school book, and you need to write the dates. That's so when we go back to school, the teacher can mark your books and see how you're going with your work. You will also be asked sometimes to complete a task in your school book, take a photo and post it up onto the Google Classroom. There is a video in this week's work that explains how to take a photo with a smartphone and use the Google Drive app to post it up onto the Google Classroom. Let's get into our new content. So let's start our work on duration. Duration in all contexts means length. You might have heard someone talking about the duration of a movie. And what they're talking about is how long does the movie go for? The duration of a movie could be 2 hours or it could be an hour and a half. Just means how long does it go for? Similarly in music, duration just means the length of sound. So in music we have long notes and short notes, or we can have a fast song or a slow song. This all has to do with the length of sound, and that's what we talk about in duration. We're going to talk about these four terms in this lecture: beat, note, rest, and bar. And so I'm going to tell you about what they mean and how do we use them in music. Let's start off with beat. Beat is the pulse in a song. It's not something that a musician plays, but it's something that a musician uses to know how fast or slow to play. A beat is usually something that you tap your foot along to. Another way to think of a beat is this drummer over here is clicking their sticks together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. They're basically telling a band, this is how fast the beat is, and this is, and we're going to use that to play the song. We're also going to learn about notes, which are just some pictures that you've seen in music, and they just tell you how long to play something for. We're going to learn about rest, which is sort of almost the opposite of a note. Where a note tells you to play, a rest tells you to have a break for a certain amount of time. Don't play. And then we're going to learn about bars, which is just a group of beats. Let's start by talking a bit more about beats. So as I said before, a beat is a steady pulse in a song. It's a bit like a clocking, like a clock ticking. It's usually constant. It doesn't speed up or slow down mostly. Sometimes it does. but it's the thing that you would tap your foot along to. Now what you need to do is just pause the video and copy this little definition of beat into your book. Make sure that you write your date, the date at the top left-hand corner of the page. Okay, cool. Now we're going to move on to our second term of this lesson, notes. Okay, notes are the pictures that we use in music to tell someone how long to play for. Now the beat is well, all these notes, they're measured in beats. So if I asked you to play a long note, let's say this top one over here. If I counted beats like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, this top picture would be telling you to play one note for 4 of those beats or 4 of those counts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. This one over here is half the size, and it would be telling you to play one note per 2 beats. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And that should make sense. This last one here is called a crotchet, and it's telling you to play one note per beat. 1, 1, 1, 1. Then we get to these two at the bottom. Now they actually don't make up a full beat. Because this only lasts half of a beat, you can actually fit 2 of them per beat. So 2 of them per count. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. You can hear that I'm clicking 2 notes per beat because these only last half of the beat. And likewise with these ones, this is called a semiquaver, and you can fit 4 of them in a beat. They're really fast. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, cool. Now let's talk about how do we use these notes in music. Well, we draw them in order that we need to play. So just like reading a book, we play notes from left to right. Now, I've just used this as a bit of a diagram just to show you how do we fit these notes in together. Each box here is going to be worth 1 beat. Okay, cool. So if I can't put this is 2 beats and this is 2 beats. I only have space to put 1 beat in this box, so I need to remove that. By putting this note in here, it's worth 2 beats. So it's actually going to last this box and this box. It's going to take up that space. I have to put my next note in here, if that makes sense. Let's start out with something quite easy. We'll put in these notes. They're worth 1 beat each. So 1, 1, 1, and then 1. You can see that I've actually got some of these notes that are upside down in these boxes, and that's okay. As long as the note is coming, if it's completely upside down, it's okay. So the stick should be going up the right-hand side and coming down the left-hand side. That is fine. So if I was to count this in, I'd say 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's how you would play that. It's pretty basic. So let's put in some longer notes just at the beginning. Now, as I said, because this note here is worth 2 beats, it's going to take up 2 boxes. I don't have room to fit this note in here because this one is taking up 2 boxes. So if I was to clap this or click it, it would sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, cool. Let's do one of these longer notes. This one's called a semi-breve, and I'm going to put him up in this space here. Now he's worth 4 beats, so he's going to take up 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 of these boxes. I don't have room now to put in a note in any of these boxes because this note is taking up all 4 of them. So if I was to clap this, it would sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is very basic. Long notes are quite easy to play. Now, we can also play some of these faster notes. So I'll put in a crotchet here, so that's worth 1 beat, and that should take up this space here. And then I'll put in another crotchet here, that'll take up this space. Now, this note here is only worth half of a beat, so it's only going to get halfway in this box, and then I have to put another note in here. So I'm going to put another one of these there. And just to make it easy, I'll put another single beat in that last box. Now this will sound like this. This rhythm will sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, cool. Then we get to these other notes, and they're extra short. Because they're worth a quarter, which just means 1/4 of a beat, we can fit 4 of them in this box here. And they're going to be played very quickly. So this rhythm will sound like this. 1, 2, 3, and 4 E-ander. Or 1, 2, Fanta, Coca-Cola. I like to use those words Fanta and Coca-Cola just to help me play those faster notes. Now I want to also point out that each box is worth a beat, and as we said at the beginning, that a bar is a group of beats. So let's go back to that diagram. This is 4 beats grouped together, and so we are calling this space here in the thick border a bar. Okay, later on we're going to go on to some 2-bar rhythms, and you can see I've got 2 groups of 4 beats. So the word bar means a group of beats. Okay, now we've just talked about these symbols here, and they tell you to play a note for a certain amount of beats. We're going to learn about their names in a moment, and we're also going to learn about these things called rests. But before we do that, I'll get you to pause the video in a second, and you need to copy this entire table into your book. Now, just a reminder that you need to copy this in and put the date up the top left-hand corner of your page, and the teacher will mark it when we go back to school. Okay, can you pause the video now and copy that in your book, please? All right, so let's talk a little bit more about this table and how do we understand it. This top note here is what we call a note. This note has a name, and it's called a semibreve. It has a value, and that just means it lasts for 4 beats. Okay, it's pretty simple. Now we also have on the right-hand side a rest version of that note. Now this note on the left, it's a semibreve, and it tells you to play for 4 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. But this note on the right is called a semibreve rest, and it means to not play for 4 beats, if that makes sense. So if I counted you in to play just a rest, you would actually not play for 4 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4, rest. 2, 3, 4, and that's how you would play a semibreve rest. It's nice and easy. A minim is this note here. It's very similar to the semibreve, except it has a stick, or what we call a stem. A minim is worth 2 beats, and its rest symbol is very similar to the semibreve, but it's just the other way up. I like to teach people that the difference between these 2 notes is that a minim is like a hat. It's worth 2 beats. The semibreve is like a hat, but it's a bit heavier, so it fell over. So that's how I tell the difference between these 2. Then we move on to the crotchet. The crotchet is very similar to the minim, except it's also colored in. Okay, and it's worth 1 beat. Its rest symbol looks like this. It's very different from the others. I like to think it looks like a Z, and then this funny C. Now remember this note on the left, the crotchet, is going to tell you to play 1 note per beat. 1, 1, 1, 1. And this note over here is a crotchet rest, and it tells you not to play for 1 beat. I'm going to quickly go through the last two. This note here on the left is a quaver, and it's like a crotchet, but it's got a tail, or some people call it a flag. It's only worth half a beat, and its rest looks like this. Then we have a semi-quaver, which is similar to the quaver, except it has a second tail or a second flag. And its rest also has a second little curved line there as well. So it's really important that you study this table and that you learn all of these notes. You learn their names and you learn their values and their rests. We're going to do some memory games in the next Google form, just to help you memorize these names, and then you're going to answer some questions based on those. But in this lecture, I'm just going to talk about how do we use these pictures to make up our own songs. So I'll go to this picture over here, and you can see I've organized notes based on their beats. So on the bottom, I've got some notes that tell you to play for a certain amount of time. And then on the top, I've got some pictures to tell you to rest for a certain amount of time. Let's start out with something really, really simple. We'll start with the semi-breve. Now remember, this tells you to clap once for 4 beats, okay? So I'll count you in, and I would like you just to, even though I can't hear you, as it's a video, it's important for you to know how to use this, so when we go back to school and we get on the instruments and you get some notes like this, you know how to play them. So please join in. All right, so this note is you're going to clap on beat 1, and then you're not going to clap on these notes because this lasts for 4 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, cool. From now on, I'm going to go through this group twice. So we'll play it twice in a row without stopping. So let's do that together. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Great. Okay, now if I put a semi-breve rest up here, remember a rest means don't play for 4 beats. Okay, cool. So this is going to be really easy. You're not going to play for 4 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4, rest, 2, 3, 4, rest, 2, 3, 4. Nice and easy. Let's move on to these minims. Now they mean to play for 2 beats. So I'll put up a minim here. Now he's going to last this box, 1 and 2. And then I can fit another note over here into this box, and that's going to last 1 and 2 as well. Okay, let's clap that together. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, cool. Let's move on to some crotchets. Now, these crotchets, you play them 1 note for each beat. Okay, cool. So let's do it like this. We'll play 2 crotchets and then a minim. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Very good. This time I'm going to use a crotchet rest. Now remember, a rest means don't play for a certain amount of beats. So we're using a crotchet rest, which means don't play for 1 beat. Okay. So on this beat number 1, you're not going to play. You're going to go rest, 2, 3, 4. Let's clap that together a little bit slower. We're going to do it 2 times in a row. 1, 2, 3, 4. Rest, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So hopefully by now you're seeing how these pictures work and you're getting a better understanding of what a beat is. It's not something that you usually play in music, but it's something that you use to know when to play. Let's clap this rhythm here again, but this time I'm not going to count the beats as we play. That way you can hear what it sounds like to play a song, but not necessarily hear the beat. Let's do that together. We're going to play it twice in a row. I'll count you in, and then I'm going to stop counting the beat while we play. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and that's how a beat is used, but it's not usually said or played. Let's play some more complex examples. We'll play some of these shorter notes. These ones are worth half a beat. So if I put a note here, it's only going to make it halfway in this bar before I need to put a second note. Now, sometimes people put a little symbol just to help them count it, and we'll usually say 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, I could put an and symbol, but sometimes that's really hard to draw quickly. So the music, we just use a plus symbol to tell us to play that. And it just means and in music. So 1, 2, 3, and I haven't got a note in that last bar. So let's put a crotchet. Okay, 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, as we get to some of these faster notes, I like to use some guidance words just to help clap these rhythms. You can see over here, I've got Coke for all these crotchets. And for any quavers, I like to use the word Fanta. Fanta, Fanta. And for any semi-quavers, I like to use Coca-Cola. So let's use that a bit just to make it a bit easier. And I'll put a group of Coca-Colas in that last bar. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, Fanta, Coca-Cola. Okay, cool. Now let's move on because sometimes we have longer rhythms. This one only lasts for 1 bar. And sometimes we're going to have rhythms that last for 2 bars or 4 bars or 16 bars, and they don't repeat. Okay, so let's have a go at playing some rhythms here. I'm going to put this note up into the first bar, and remember, this note lasts for 4 beats, so it's going to last 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 of these boxes. I'm going to put this note here. It's worth 2 beats, and it's going to last these 2 boxes here. So my next note needs to go in this 3rd box, and then I'll put a pair of quavers in these last 2 boxes. Okay, let's clap this together. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and. Okay, cool. Let's make some more complex rhythms, and then we'll talk about some new techniques to draw quavers and semiquavers. So I'm going to put that note there, and I'm going to put this note here, and then a pair of quavers there. I'll put this crotchet down here and some semiquavers in this box. Okay, cool. So this rhythm is starting to get a bit more complicated. So when I get to this bar here, I'm going to say Fanta just to help me clap these 2 notes. So 1, 2, 3, Fanta. And then for these notes, I'm going to say Coca-Cola. And then on the last bar, I'm going to say Fanta again just to help me clap that rhythm. So let's try and clap this together. I'm going to play it two times in a row. So I'm going to play this full, both bars, and then I'm going to start again straight away and play them again. Okay, let's try and clap that together. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, Coca-Cola Fanta. 1, 2, 3, Fanta. 1, 2, Coca-Cola Fanta. Okay, cool. Another way to write this Coca-Cola is if you want to keep using the numbers, if you have notes, like if you have 4 notes in a bar, you can, like when we do with the Fanta, we can write 4 and. We can actually write 3E and R, and that's another way to say it. It's really easy to say 3E and A, okay, 1E and A, 2E and A, 3E and A, 4E and A. So we could play the rhythm also like that. So let's try that. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3E and A, 4 and. Okay, cool. So that's another way to count those rhythms. But you're welcome to keep using the Cokes and the Fantas if it helps you. Now, some people, I'm sure many of you have seen notes, instead of being drawn like this, you've probably seen them drawn like this. And likewise, you've seen some semiquavers drawn like this. Well, there's one reason that there's a couple of reasons why we do that, but the main one is that it's neater to connect these two tails and turn them into what we call a beam. Now, this is, I would call this two quavers, but I would call this a pair of quavers. This is a group of semiquavers, and I just want you to notice that the quavers have two note heads, these circles here. So do a pair of quavers. Just because they're connected doesn't mean that they're one note. These are still two notes. They're just connected because it's nice and neat. Now, also notice the difference between a pair of quavers and then these two notes over here. The quaver has one beam, where the semiquavers, like they have two tails, they have two beams. The more lines, the more beams they have, the faster the note. So it's really important. Let's have a look at some other examples. Quavers can be drawn. You don't always have to group just two of them. You can group three or even four of them together. But when you're doing quavers, you always have to have just the one beam. That's a nice clear way to show that you're drawing quavers. Semiquavers, though, they always have to have two beams. So sometimes you can have two semiquavers drawn together, and it looks very, very different to a pair of quavers. Notice I've also drawn just the fractions here, just to say this note is worth a half, and this note is worth a half, this note is worth a half, this note's worth a half, because it's always got to do with the note head. Okay, so just because all the tails are connected doesn't mean that they are shorter, that it's a longer note. It's actually still, like this is still two notes. And likewise, each note head in a semiquaver is worth 1/4. Let's have a look at some other examples down here. Can you tell which notes are quavers and which notes are semiquavers? Because sometimes we can actually combine quavers and semiquavers. This is a bit of a dig deeper question. So if you just want to move on to the next part of the video, you're welcome to. But you can see that this first note only has one beam, so it's a quaver. But these two notes, they have two beams, so they're semiquavers. Likewise, this one's backwards. These two notes are, they have two beams, so they're semiquavers, and this last one has one beam, so it's a quaver. This is a little bit more complex, but this first note, it has two beams, so it's a semiquaver. This one in the middle only has one beam, so it's a quaver, and this last one has two tails, and it's a semiquaver. Cool. Rightio. So let's just create a rhythm that uses some of these groups. Now, as I did before, I could move these four notes up here, but instead of doing that, I'm going to use just a group of semiquavers. Let's clap this rhythm together. And I'm going to use the words Coke and Fanta. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, Fanta, Coca-Cola. Okay, cool. So that's how we're going to use that. The next part of this video, we're going to clap a series of rhythms just to get a bit more familiar with clapping rhythms and using these note values. So let's have a go. I'll count you in, and we're going to play all of the rhythms twice in a row without stopping. So let's start out with something nice and simple. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, cool. Let's move on to the next rhythm. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, if it does help, just say the word Fanta when you get to this one, and you can even say Coke for this. I'll demonstrate. Coke, Coke, Fanta, Coke. Okay, cool. Let's do that together one more time, 2 times in a row. 1, 2, 3, 4. Coke, Coke, Fanta, Coke, 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 Fanta, Coke. Rightio, let's move on to the next rhythm. We'll play this one twice in a row. Now we have 2 groups of Fantas or 2 pairs of quavers. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4, and. Now I'll do it with the Cokes and the Fantas. 1, 2, 3, 4. Coke, Fanta, Coke, Fanta, Coke, Fanta, Coke, Fanta. Cool? Let's add some Coca-Colas in there just to make it a little bit more complicated. 1, 2, 3, 4. Coke, Fanta, Fanta, Coca-Cola, Coke, Fanta, Fanta, Coca-Cola. I want to do that again, but a little bit slower. If you want to do it with the 1, 2, and 3, and 4 ender, you're welcome to as well. 1, 2, 3, 4. Coke, Fanta, Fanta, Coca-Cola, Coke, Fanta, Fanta, Coca-Cola. Great. Let's move on to the next rhythm. We have 2 more. We just have crotchets and quavers in this one, or Cokes and Fantas. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Coke, Fanta, Coke, Fanta, Fanta, Coke, Fanta, Coke. Cool. Now this one, I want to try and clap it without saying the beats or without saying Cokes and Fantas, just so we can get used to hearing a rhythm but not necessarily hearing the beat. We're just going to use the beat because that's what we do in music. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's really good practice. And if you can say the beats in your head, but not say them out loud, that's a much more musical way to play our rhythms. All right, let's try this last one. It's a bit more complicated, but I'm sure we can do it. Okay, I'm going to use the words Cokes and Fantas just to help us with this one. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Fanta, Coke, Coke, Fanta, Coca-Cola, Fanta, Fanta, Coke. Good. Fanta, Coke, Coke, Fanta, Coca-Cola, Fanta, Fanta, Coke. Great. Alrighty, let's move on to a bit of a task just to show your understanding of these symbols and how long they last for. You need to, in your book, create a rhythm that lasts for 2 bars. What you need to do is draw a symbol and put it in the first box and know how long does it last for. This one I just used lasts for 4 beats. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And so my next note has to go in here because it won't fit in this space. I took up too much space with my semi-brief. So my next note goes here. This only lasts 1 beat. So my next note has to go in this box. I'm going to put those 2 there. And then I'm going to put this one here and then put this one here. And that's an example of how to complete this task. I also encourage you to use some rests. So you could start out with a crotchet rest and then put a crotchet in and then a minim. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can see that's sort of what we're doing. Can you please take a photo and upload it to this lesson of the Google Classroom, and your teacher will mark the photo of it there. Make sure you put it in your book and written the date up the top left-hand corner. Now, if you're going really well with some of these rhythms, I encourage you to do this dig deeper task. It's completely optional, but this is an 8-bar rhythm. I'm going to demonstrate it in a second, but if you want to try and improve your rhythm reading ability, then try and clap this rhythm and film yourself doing it and put that up onto the Google Classroom where your teacher can have a look. I'm going to clap it now. If it helps to use the words Cokes and Fantas and Coca-Colas, I encourage you to do that just to get from the start to the end. But if you do film it, try not to say Cokes and Fantas out loud. Just say them in your head to make it a bit easier. I'm going to demonstrate the rhythm now and then move on to the checklist for this week in music. Okay, here we go from the beginning. 1, 2, 3, 4. Coke, Coke, Fanta, Coke. Coke, Fanta, Coke. Fanta, Fanta, Coke. Fanta, Coke. Coke, Fanta, Fanta, Coca-Cola, Fanta, Coke. Fanta, Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola, Fanta, Coke. Fanta, Coca-Cola, Fanta, Coca-Cola, Coke. Coca-Cola, Coke. Coca-Cola, Fanta. Great. So you should have something like that. If you play it properly. So just to finish off, what have we gone through in this lecture video? I know it's a bit long, but the first thing that you need to do this week in music is to watch this lecture video. So you've just done that if you made it to the end. You should have paused the video and written down the definition of beat into your book. And you should have also paused the video and copied down the full table of the note values into your books. You need to make sure that you have copied all the note pictures and the note rests. We will be using those in music a lot this term, and so it's important that you have some practice drawing them. You should have also created your own 2-bar rhythm, and you need to upload that to the Google Classroom. And that is due by Monday next week. Type any, at the end of this Google form, can you please type any questions that you have based on the information that talked about in this lecture? And that's due by 12 p.m. tomorrow. Then when you're done, the teacher will create some answers to all the questions and we'll make a tutorial video just to explain all of those questions. Once you've finished watching that tutorial video on Wednesday, I encourage you to go and complete this note values quiz that is also in the Google Classroom. There'll be lots of questions based on the information that we've talked about in this lecture. And a lot of these questions are going to be in your end of term quiz, which will be your assessment for this term. So it's really important that you know the note values table really, really well, that you know the names, the pictures, the values, and the rest symbol of all of these notes, and that you know how to use them. So if you do have any questions based on any of that, please post them in the exit slip questions at the end of this Google form. I hope you have a wonderful week. Looking forward to hearing any questions that you might have.